Hello, everyone. This is Glazer of Snap Judgments, the official podcast of Marvel Snap Zone. And today we got some OTA. Welcome to the Thursday OTA. It's been a little while, it feels like, but we've got huge news. We've got a nerf to the most controversial card in the game, ALIOTH. We've got lots more going on. Let's get to it. Before we do, though, I'm going to invite you, especially if you're new, to hit that sub button to give me a chance to win you over with the content. Basically, it helps us out. It's totally free. We give you at least 2 brand new decks every single weekday with a full deck guide. There were 4 decks this morning, 2 with full deck guides. Make sure you check out that video if you have interest. We cover everything in Marvel Snap here, giving you the best decks before the meta catches on, and we do the biggest giveaway in all of Snap. So sub so you don't miss out on any of that awesome stuff. Let's keep it going. This is the OTA, thanks to Careless of Snapzone, who does all the best graphics. So, what has happened is, first and foremost, the Widow's Bite that Black Widow creates is now -1 power. That is a big difference. It makes Widow fundamentally a 2/2. Opponent doesn't draw a card. That's pretty good. The only downside is Loki sort of just chucks the if you can Loki on the right turn, it just sort of chucks the Widow's Bite and you move on with life. You don't take up the space. But generally speaking, for junk decks, for Darkhawk decks, that -1 is a big difference. It's a really powerful change. We've also got the Tiger Spirit getting 1 more power from a 5/7 to a 5/8. I think that might be good. It's really hard to tell. I haven't played White Tiger in so freaking long. It's a Series 1 card. So I'm not 100% sure. I do mess with Black Widow from time to time. I think Black Widow is really good. So, and really underrated. I think that taking a draw away from an opponent and making them play a 0-cost card in one of their limited locations is often really strong. I'm not sure about the Tiger Spirit. We're going to look at some decks. We're going to look at decks for all these cards. We're going to go over, I want to say, 18 decks today with these cards. Um, I think this is probably good, but I don't think it like breaks the card or anything. Next up, we've got Forge. Forge goes from a 2/1 plus 3 to a 1/1 plus 2. He's definitely, seriously, less powerful. But what he loses in power, he makes up in flexibility. The big change is ALIOTH loses 2 power. And before you come here complaining that he's nerfed now that he's not in spotlights, they're not selling him. He's back in spotlights in 2 more weeks. I feel like this is a play rate nerf as much as anything else. I've honestly never felt like at the highest levels of Snap, ALIOTH won all that much. He's very good in the lower levels, though. And now your cards like Doom or Doom beats him, right? Spider-Man Silk beat him like comfortably. And now even Jeff can tie him. So if you had an empty lane, for whatever reason, you can move Jeff over. And if they play ALIOTH and nothing else, you've tied that power. I think that's huge. I think that's absolutely huge. I think ALIOTH is still probably one of the 3 or 4 best 6 drops in the game, but I don't think he's better than Doom anymore. I think Doom's probably better at most. And lastly, Shuri loses a power in the least effective change ever. I cannot imagine Shuri being a 4/1 is relatively important for almost anything. But we're going to look at decks for all of these cards, so very many decks. Let's start with the big one, ALIOTH. ALIOTH is seriously nerfed. The by far most hit thing that we've seen in an OTA in quite a while, since at least Kitty. And I would argue that this is more nerfed than Kitty going to 1/0. All right. So in tomorrow's episode of Snap Judgments, the podcast that I host, we had Lambie and Peaceful Sion. And as we were on, we talked about what we would do to the Johnson Thanos deck that's sort of been running around, finishing near the top of tournaments. It was the #1 deck on ladder for a little while. And basically, we decided America's more important than Iron Lad, so we made that change. And it was running like Shangri Leader, and we thought Claw was probably better. And then there was like a mid-cost card slot to like fit in. And with that mid-cost card, we decided that Loki was probably pretty good. Because you still have your clunky Thanos hands, right? Like where you're just like, oh no, nothing is coming together. I've got like even with like you've got Thanos, America, Vision, and Claw, and just like a stone and Loki. At that point, you just Loki, and then you have a whole new hand, and you're gonna draw more things to see more things. So that should be relatively powerful and relatively effective in Snap, or at least that's the hope we're going with. Um, Sorry, I guess we should talk about the card that was nerfed here. Alioth is worse in this deck. Alioth is significantly worse in this deck. A lot of your early power goes to making sure that the Professor X goes off, and Alioth's 5 power is relatively important at that point for winning the lane. Luckily, you have Elsa, so you should be able to get a decent amount of other power, and like you can sell Alioth a Devil Dino lane, or a Vision lane, or a Claw lane, and get that extra power. You should also be able to play around opposing Alioths with this deck ridiculously easily. You've got Claw that basically easily outpowers an Alioth, Vision, and Jeff at least ties it. So this deck should be both really good with Alioth, if weaker, and really good against it. Next up, we've got Safety's been playing this deck to the top 50. I think he's actually around level 30. Safety Blade is a Marvel Snap Zone Writer and complete genius at the game of Marvel Snap. Basically, what he did is said, hey, no one expects Alioth at the top of my bounce deck, so you play a regular bounce game. And if you've locked up a lane and you know that they're going to try and go wide around you or play Doom or whatever, you just Alioth to win another lane. You do your Mysterio Bishop thing on turn 5, Mysterio Hitmonkey thing on turn 5, and you just go from there. Quick note, I know it says Alioth is 6-5. For all of the deck trackers, it takes a couple hours for them to, honestly, about almost a day for them to update, and I don't want to make you wait for the video, so here we are. Also, for anyone new, all of these variants are mine. I like to showcase my variants in my regular videos. We'll talk about what these variants are and why I chose them. But you should know immediately, hip variants are the best. And this is a beautiful 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 hip deck. I've got Hip Monkey Hip 2. I just happen to like this one better. I want Hip Monkey Bishop, Hip Bishop. I didn't want Hip Kitty. I don't think it's as good as this kitty. But here we are. This deck is really cool, right? Like, Safety is, again, a complete genius, right? No one expects this. No one on ladder, at least, like, this might not be as good in Conquest, but in ladder, you're basically saying, I've got a whole game plan, and at the end of that game plan, I can just Alioth and lock up the game. Super cool idea. Congrats, Safety. Huge props. The less power in Alioth matters, but you'll have power in every lane from cards like Mysterio and Jeff anyway. And you basically, by moving Jeff into the Alioth lane, get the same power anyway. So, like, this is probably one of the better homes for where Alioth is right now. Thursday 4 tagged me and posted on Twitter with this really, really cool take on things. The real cool card here is Jean, and you'll see about the Midnight Suns Jean. Because it doesn't matter how powerful your Alioth is if you're basically locking down your opponent and you can play anywhere. If Bounce and Loki are everywhere, this deck is less good, but the less Bounce and Loki is around, the more powerful this deck is. You really, really want to see Jean, hence the America Chavez, Jean on 3 or 4. You play that into your Angela, or you fill that lane with the Elsa, and then you can move out to do whatever you want. And if they're stuck playing there, you move out to win with like Jeff and Silk and so on, or Spider-Man, and then you just move Alioth in there when you know they have to play the end of the game, kill their stuff, win the game. Alioth should at that point get the Elsa bonus and have more than enough power. Very cool deck, and you have Doom, because Doom does a similar job for this, right? Absolutely very, very cool deck. Gotta try it. This is the new deck we get access to. This is Cerebro 3. I went through like 6 or 7 different Cerebro 3s, and this is what I came up with. This is the one most likely to be run. It's possible the Alioth nerf means we see more Legion. Legion is one of the other best top-end cards, and Alioth sort of took his spot in the meta. Legion was in like every deck as the top-end of good stuff cards, and then Alioth became it. So if we see less Alioth, we might see more Legion, which would make Magic worse. But I'm not ready to assume that's going to happen, and if it doesn't, this deck should be sick. The extra turn, seeing every card when 2 of those cards, well, 3 of those cards are Shang, Alioth, and Shadow King is meta breaking. Luke has to be in here right now because thanks to Man-Thing, there's a bunch of negative stuff around. But if you get Luke out and can like drop Luke relatively late in the game, or behind your Invisible Woman, your Cerebro Mystique are going to pump things to amazing amounts, and you can just kill their best stuff. Or nerf or nuke their best stuff with Shadow King and Shang-Chi and Alioth. Crystal means you draw the whole deck. Enjoy yourself. This is going to go off. It's a very, very good deck, I think. It would not shock me if this buff makes Cerebro 3 one of the better decks in the game. Instead of just being good against Loki, it might just be good. Alright, Shuri went to 4-1. I don't think anything huge changes with Shuri as a 4-1, so like we're going to sort of fly through Shuri decks. It's one less power, right? It hurts the decks, but like You're not usually winning or losing by 1 power there, so whatever. Um, Shuri as a 4/1, this is one of the best decks in the game. It's the best Series 3 only deck in the game by like a landslide. Still play it. Don't worry that Shuri has 1 less power. I don't know how to make that clear. This is the deck to build to if you're Series 3 and not really like looking into like getting anything fancy. It's super good. It's probably one of the top 5-ish decks in the game. I threw this together. I felt like this was really cool. This is one of my move decks. I feel like so if you've got 3 cards in Elsa and you play Hulkbuster, whatever Hulkbuster hits is going to get that +3 power, and then you can play another card there, which I think is really cool. You could also like Shuri Captain Marvel or Shuri Vision, move it around, keep it safe from a card like Alioth. Shuri Silk is pretty damn good. Shuri Spider-Man is pretty damn good. Like all these cards are really powerful. You can even Shuri as the 3rd card in the lane and Elsa with the Force. The double will happen first, but a double +3 seems pretty damn good. It makes Jeff a 2/9, for example, which seems nice. Um, yeah, I think this is a really good deck. Um, it's not weak to Alioth like a lot of the other decks might be. It can compete reasonably well on power because of Shuri, Elsa, and Hulkbuster. So like, I think that this is a real contender, and this is one of the ones I'm going to test out first. And again, like I'm more interested in this deck because of because of Alioth's nerf than I am because Shuri lost to power. I don't care. Also, this Shuri is bad. Done with Shuri. Let's talk Forge. Forge is a 1/1 +2. Forge is still gonna be good, right? So on turn 2, now I can play Forge and Kitty in this deck, and like in a lot of ways, that's better than the +3 because I also have Angela and Elsa. So now I can go Kitty, Forge Kitty, Angela Kitty on the first 3 turns. That's just really good. Or like, and at some point, if I mix Elsa in there to fill a lane, now Kitty's just gonna get big faster, right? I think that this is one of the real winners. Again, Shuri loses 1 power. I don't care. So you go Shuri, Forge Kitty, uh, then let's say you go Elsa Kitty, right? Now you've got on turn 3, you've got 3 cards there. Now you go for turn 4, you go Kitty Hulkbuster in that lane, and hopefully that Hulkbuster goes on that Kitty. If not, whatever, you've still got extra power there. Then you go Shuri Kitty, then you go Kitty Taskmaster, and you win the game. You could also conceivably not go all in there, just get a reasonable sized Kitty that way, and then go Shuri Vision and then Taskmaster Kitty to end the game and enjoy yourself that way. There's like Shuri Red Skull and then Taskmaster onto a armor, wins a lot of games with Alioth less. I think this deck is right back to the top of the meta. I think the Forge nerf is a buff here and the Shuri nerf is irrelevant. Really, really cool deck. Very impressed with where I think this is going to be. We've got Spyro's deck. I've talked about this a lot on here. It remains one of my favorite decks in the game. I had a version that KM ended up featuring. He got it from elsewhere, but it still ended up like it was still the version that I fundamentally created. That's running Red Skull and Taskmaster on top of this package. I think Spyro's version is more consistent in the meta right now. I just do. Um, I think the extra destroy is important. Like bluntly, I think the extra destroy is really important. You could make Zola be Taskmaster, but Zola's probably better because if you can get your Human Torch or big multiple man alone, then killing it is really, really nice. Nimrod is significantly worse with Forge than before. That's a reasonable size nerf. But, and this is a fairly big but, now you can do if you're not getting your Nimrod stuff going, right? Like you don't see Shuri, you can end up playing like Forge into you can much more easily play Forge into Torch and then Carnage or Venom that, right? And then get a bigger Phoenix Force with your Torch, which is nice. Or Forge into multiple man now and then kill that, and now you've got a better Phoenix Force because Shang doesn't seem to exist right now, which is nice. But your 8 Nimrod is mid, like firmly mid. It's not nearly as good as a 9 Nimrod because remember this is multiplicative. Um, you can play it with other cards though, the same turn, which is reasonably nice, right? Um, I don't know how often that's honestly going to come up. It might come up more with the Phoenix Force, where like you killed something early and then you didn't see Phoenix Force on 4. So you're gonna need, but you drew into it on 5, so now you're gonna forge Phoenix Force. Again, I think the Nimrod package here took a hit with Forge, but I don't think the rest did. And Forge costing 1 makes everything much easier to work around. So there is that. It is a card you want to make sure it doesn't die to Killmonger and mess up your whole plans. So be a little careful with that too. Next up, we've got Move. I built a standard ass Move deck. I feel like Elsa and Forge are probably good in it. We just want multiple ways to buff Human Torch and Multiple Men here and move them, right? So we've got Ghost Spider, Iron Fist, Cloak, and Heimdall to move these cards. Craven, who benefits from them. Craven and Elsa we'll talk about in a second. And then Forge is just a nice way to say, all right, I'm going to start doubling Human Torch at 4 instead of 2 is awesome. I'm going to move around a 5 power multiple man is awesome. And then you can still Hulk Buster on them. I really like Craven with Elsa and Heimdall a lot because you can do something like Craven, Elsa, and let's say Forge on a lane, and then you play Vision, you move Vision wherever, and then you can Heimdall on that lane, and like Heimdall's going to get the +3, but then everything else is going to move out. So you've got 11 power in that lane, and now that Craven is getting plus along with anything else that happened that game, Craven is getting an extra +6, and you have the 8 power Craven, right? 10 from Elsa, 11 from Forge, and you've got a reasonable shot at winning, especially if you had anything else in that lane. And if you replace Forge with Vulture or something there, you're just really cooking. You're really, really cooking. And there's a lot of ways to get a lot of power. Now that Vision that has 1,000,000 powers elsewhere, it's pretty nice. There's a lot of nice things to do with this combo. I think this deck might just be good, but no one's testing it, so we're gonna have to find out. Censor won the biggest tournament in recent Marvel Snap since Torrican's huge win a couple months back. With this deck, is it worse? Yeah. Is it much worse? That remains to be seen. It lost 3 power when Absorb Man went, and now it lost 3 more power from Forge going. So it's down 6 power, and it wasn't winning by a ton of power to begin with. Is this enough to kill it? I think maybe. But I think Elsa might be enough to bring it right back, right? Because the second you Elsa something, you're getting like 3 of those power back. You lost 3 power, you gain 3 power when you drop Elsa. So like there is that, but then you're getting less pumps from your Patriot or your Surfer, right? Like I don't know. It's no, I guess it's actually the same for Patriot and Surfer. So Elsa should make up for the difference here if you're running it in this deck. Alioth is nerfed too, which will hurt also. Maybe Alioth should be Doom now. I don't love Doom with Elsa, but it's possible that's the switch to make. I think this deck is still probably tier 1. I don't know if it's tournament winning. Let's keep going. Widow. This is my favorite change. I implied that earlier. There's so many things I want to play with Widow. The first of them is Owl God's Mr. Darklad. I decided to update this deck and throw Black Widow into it. Basically, the only change I made was to add Black Widow, I believe. It gives me an extra way to make my Darkhawk bigger. So this deck is strange, right? How it wins is it basically says, all right, so I Darkhawk and I copy it, and then I have Rock Slide and Absorbing Man, right? I Korg, Rock Slide, Absorbing Man, and then I've got 5 rocks, and my Darkhawk is 16, my Mystique is 16. I can play them wherever the hell I want. Rogue is there to get rid of their Mobius, basically. Because Ravonna allows you to do all of that on the last turn and be extremely safe. Great. Well, I don't need to Rock Slide into Absorbment. I can Korg into Black Widow on my way up the ladder, right? And that's the second Rock Slide I want. Not great with the hot location of that draws the extra card, right? Like if your opponent can draw cards, not ideal. But short of that, this should be really good. Also, I got the Hip Zabu, and I want to play it because I've been waiting for Hip Zabu forever, and I love it so much. I don't know why I have the wrong Jeff here. I just realized it, and it's making me sad. But this is a beautiful deck otherwise, right? Like, I love these variants. This is one of my favorite variant-based decks. I built this, I called it Ravonna Try, and then I made it Ravonna Try Mobius, and now I cut Mobius for Elsa, so I guess it should be Ravonna Try Elsa. I think that this is really good. This deck, struggled to one thing. It basically, if it didn't see Darkhawk, it didn't really have enough power for the Iron Man to double. I think Elsa solves that problem. I think Elsa basically fundamentally solves that problem because now I can fill a lane with Iron Man, and that's 6 times whatever else, and I win that lane. There was only one lane I was really having trouble doing that with, Because like Mystique Iron Man or the Darkhawk or whatever would win the other lane basically single handedly. So this should just be really good now. Um, I did cut card that's name escapes me, Snowguard, from this to add America because I want to see Elsa on curve. I need to see Mystique here. I need to see all these cards, right? Widow is really great here because as a 1 power card, I can play it on 4 with Rock Slide, which is 2 rocks in your deck and one stupid -1 thing in your hand that you have to play. And now, like, good luck seeing everything you need to stop me because if I go off, I go off. You can't beat me. Ideally, there. I can also, sorry, if I play Ravonna on 3, I can also Rogue and Widow on 4, which is pretty damn nice as well. Basically, what I want to do is I want to take their Mobius, and if I take their Mobius, I feel like I have enough power to win. I think this deck is really, really good, and no one's playing it. So, don't tell people. Enjoy. And also, like, don't forget, you want to play like 3 things on one lane so that when you slam Iron Man, you really, really get the benefit of it. So, like, if your lane is Ravonna at 3, Rogue at 2, and Widow at 1, right? You're at 6, and now your Iron Man is a 3. You've got 18 power in that lane. Seems good. Seems good. Seems good. And more than that if it's also. But yeah, if you do all that stuff on top of Angela, etc., etc., etc. I think this deck is really good. Not as good as some of the ones we're going to look at, but I think it's really good. This is the one I want to try. This basically says, you know what if we just skip Ravonna and say we're just going to play the damn curve? You're losing a power on Absorbing Man with Bast, but Absorbing Man is so good with everything from Rock Slide to Shadow King to Korg to Widow that I felt like I had to have it. It could be Iron Lad if you prefer, you're losing more power. It could just be something like America to like make yourself more consistent. It could even be like a Rogue to like stop their bullshit and make sure your bullshit happens. But like a Darkhawk, an Iron Man that start at 3 power is pretty damn good, right? Does this deck want um Elsa? Every deck kind of wants Elsa, right? But I think it would like I'd rather run Shadow King and Luke here. Luke is especially good with the stupid man thing everywhere. This deck seems great to me. Bluntly, this deck seems really great. Cosmo's probably your swing card if you wanted to get one of those other cards I mentioned in here. This seems like it's really, really good. And again, the -1 power when you're winning on by small margins on this seems really strong. All right, Junk. This is what everyone thinks the Black Widow change is for, and maybe it is. Annihilus is coming out. This deck basically says, okay, go play something negative, have fun. It's running Rogue to basically steal their Luke Cage. Doesn't care about stealing anything but Luke Cage, so save it for Luke. But if you can steal their Luke, you can do the Hazmat into Absorbing Man final turn and win. You've also got Mojo. They are likely to fill a lane between Titania and Viper and Goblin and Debris and so on. So Mojo is a 2/8 at that point, which seems like, I don't know, pretty good stat line. They got to play the Widow's Bite too. Copying the Widow's Bite seems really strong. You don't get to draw for 2 turns is nice, right? You can do something like Widow into Hood or Hood into Widow into Absorb Man, and then you can choose if you want an extra Hood or an extra Widow's Bite. Sorry, an extra Demon or an extra Widow's Bite. And Gamora is just your like go over the top end game. These often run Spider Woman or Alioth or something. I thought Gamora was better because I want to be able to play another card with it, specifically the Demon. I think this is probably really good too. Is it as good as it was a few days ago? I think it's probably worse because there's more Luke in the meta. But if you can handle that Luke, this should work. Same idea. Man Thing Junkhawk. We're back to Alioth because Alioth is really good at closing for junk. That could be Spider Woman. That could be Gamora. Same concept. I threw Zabu in here because I've got 3/4s. And like if it doesn't work, it doesn't work. This deck just dies to like both an opposing Luke and an opposing Mobius, so you really don't want both. You can sort of survive the Mobius, but you don't want the Luke. Maybe Rogue is better to run than one of them. Whatever. You still have the backup plan of big Darkhawk stuff and Shang-Chi. Man Thing should be able to like give you at least some competition in a lane, and at that point you should be good to go. You should be able to win another lane with Alioth. Like if you go Man Thing into Darkhawk in one lane, it's probably enough power to win that lane, especially if you Korged and Widowed earlier, and then hopefully Alioth can steal you another. White Tigers decks. Only 3 White Tiger decks. This is the standard on reveal that always has a high win rate no matter what like stats you look at. This is like the one of the most standard decks in the game, but it's consistent. It works. Everyone thinks Iceman is unplayable because of Mobius. It's not as good as it was because of Mobius, but if it hits Mobius, great. If it forces them to play Mobius when they might not otherwise because you're not running any of the reduction, great. Scorpion forces them to play their Luke when it might not matter to them. And basically, you just want to get Wong down, and then you want to make 2 8-power Tigers. And then if you don't think they have ALIOTH, you can Doom something. And if not, you can just Doom elsewhere, and then you'll win that Storm lane. They'll play ALIOTH, and your Doombot will, even your single Doombot will win you the Wong lane. It's pretty nice, especially if there was a Wolfsbane there. That Wolfsbane early play is really, really good. If you're having trouble going at the top, you Wolfsbane, then you Odin. You can White Tiger and Odin to fill the board with 8-power Tigers. All of these are really strong things. This is, again, one of the best decks that's like completely freaking attainable for you. So if you can play this, you should play this. Next up, we've got Ravonna Tiger. This is an Iron Patriot list, which means you need Iron Lad. Sorry, but pumping the Broodlings, pumping the Absorbing Manlings, pumping the Tiger, pumping the Doombots. All of that is really powerful. You'll see that we have Forge again here because Forge is great with like everything in this deck. You've got multiple Wong targets. You've got Ironheart, which is a really solid Wong target, Doom and White Tiger, and Surfer. So like your Wong is going off. If we see less ALIOTH, this is going to be a really great deck. I think this is likely to be the best White Tiger deck, but I think it's still probably vulnerable to ALIOTH at the end of the day. So buyer beware. I do think Forge is good here though. Like Forge into Brood is still good, but like Forge into Wolfsbane is always surprisingly effective. If you forge in the lane that you're wonging, right? Like you can forge and then you can you can wong and then you can forge and Wolfsbane in that lane, and then if you can Ode in that lane, you're going crazy. Or you can forge and then drop Wong on top of it and go off. Ravonna is here, but Ravonna is a nice bonus, not a necessity. 2-cost Ironheart forges already, 1 now, remember. 2-cost Patriot, 2-cost Wolfsbane, 4-cost White Tiger are all just value propositions. So I think Ravonna is really good. I wish more people had her so they could play her. I wish more people had her so they can play her because this is safety's Ravonna special. It's sort of similar to the decks we were talking about earlier, like a mix of the Iron Man thing and the on reveal thing. From early, the Iron Man Ravonna thing and the on reveal is really cool. I think this is a powerful deck. Ravonna here hits Mystique, Iron Man, White Tiger, and Jubilee, which is like a lot of really good hits. It's worth knowing that and Ironheart. So it's worth knowing and remembering that if Ravonna is played and then you play Jubilee and it pulls Mystique, it's gonna give you a second Ravonna. Rogue to copy their nonsense. You're particularly trying to hit Mobius. This deck is so much stronger than it looks. It's the last really, really, really safe home for Zabu. I feel like that it really works. Again, this is one of the first decks I plan on playing. Safety is a freaking card gaming genius. Also, don't you love my new iron? My like this is like all my new variants. I got this Zabu in the last week. I got this armor, this Ironheart, all in the last week. So like giant love for my new variants in the bottom row. Need a White Tiger. Still working on a White Tiger. All right. If you can't find a deck here to try with all these changes, really sorry, but tomorrow we're going to be back with more decks. It's the beauty of the channel. We hit you with new decks every day. Hit that sub button. I hope you enjoyed this OTA look. I think it's cool. I think they genuinely really shook up the meta with this one. I think ALIOTH is way worse. Just remember, I said in yesterday's video, you need a mental checklist for ALIOTH at the end of the game. Make sure that you're not just playing straight into him, and you should be very safe to play. Snap and beat him. Thanks for watching. See you tomorrow morning.